Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the second Mad Magpie podcast. I was hoping to have this as a live stream podcast on YouTube, but unfortunately, YouTube wants me to verify a couple of things before they'll allow me. But I hope that next week I can do this as a live stream, and then anyone that wants to jump in and say hello can do so. Leave a comment about how wrong I am with my analysis of the Geelong Cats versus Collingwood game. It is currently Saturday, the 18th of July, where I am. I'm sure it's something similar where you are, or perhaps you'll be listening to this in 10 years' time at a random time. I don't know. Let's go through the score for the match on Thursday night. It's now 2 days later. Geelong 5-5-35 were defeated by Collingwood to the tune of 22 points. We scored 8 goals, 9-57. So I know that I've seen a few comments around the place saying that Collingwood were very lucky with a few umpire calls, but I think 17 shots to 10 sort of tells the tale of the match. And in fact, I think a few of Geelong's goals were quite lucky as well. You just have to include that the controversial Tom Hawkins ruck moment that led to one of their goals. I'm pretty comfortable in saying that Collingwood were deserved winners playing in Perth, a venue which I wouldn't say is one of our best, although, as everyone has mentioned in the media recently, Collingwood are definitely a good team when they are on the road. To be honest, I was a little bit unsure about how this match was going to go. I feel like we do match up well against the Cats, although before the final last year, in which we kind of took them to pieces, they were getting the better of us in pretty close matches. So I just thought there was a chance that maybe they were going to come out and give us a bit of a lesson. But right from the start, you could see that Collingwood was on top. Early goals put us on the right track, and it was really at that point that Geelong only got goals from mistakes. So it was quite a pleasing match to watch. I think if we look across the team, what surprised me is that there were quite a few players that you wouldn't say had amazing games. They were serviceable. They were perhaps even a little bit quiet, but it was still such a one-sided game. Collingwood at no point looked in any trouble, and I guess the only criticism that I would have is that into the last quarter there was a point where Geelong got within, I believe, 2 goals of the lead, and that is a really dangerous situation to be in, where you dominate a game even though it's in the wet, which makes scoring low, and the other team has the chance to win that game based off 10 minutes of good football. And you know that Geelong are more than capable of putting on 2, 3, 4 goals in a very quick amount of time. We'll talk about the tap a little bit later, which sort of put the game to rest. My highlight of the match, I would say that. Some of the best for the Pies. I was a big fan once again of Billy Elliott getting into that midfield. I think that we have found something really good there. I think that if his tank can withstand it, he offers something that I don't think all of our mids have. Apart from Pendles, who once again is just absolutely starring this year, I think Elliott has the kicking penetration and accuracy to really be a big damage in that forward 50 entry. I feel like if you're one of our forwards leading out, it's either Elliott or Pendlebury. They're the two that you want to have kicking the ball to you. So I think we can say that that was one of our best. I think Treloar had a fantastic game. That I'm going to talk about him at the end. I've got a bit of a theory about Treloar and wet weather football. Our backline again held up really well. Maynard started to get a bit of attention from Bruce on the commentary, which was interesting because I think if you look at our backline, there's 3 players there that I would say are in contention, if not almost locks for an All-Australian gig. And they are Crisp, who I know plays off a half flank and sometimes moves into the middle, Maynard, and then also Moore. And it's quite an interesting situation to be in. What would have happened if Jeremy Howe would still be there? Because you could argue that Collingwood have four of the best defensive players in the league at that point. So I thought Crisp had a great game. I thought Maynard had a great game. I thought Darcy Moore had a okay game. I don't think he needed to do anything. I think Geelong offered so little with their ball movement that you didn't really have to intercept all that often, but still, the way that he taxed the game at every situation. I love the strut that Darcy Moore has at the moment. He looks like he knows he is the man. He looks like he knows he owns that field. I think he knows he can pretty much take on any player in the league at the moment, and there's no one as athletic. There's no one who's going to intercept as well. It would be interesting to have Darcy Moore play on Harris Andrews, where they're both defenders, because they're both heads and shoulders above the other defensive tools that we have in the league at the moment. So good on you, Darcy. Keep it up. You can't go through the match without mentioning Jordan De Goey. He had a fantastic match, and I'm not going to focus on his 5 goals because he kicked, he got a cheap one at the end. It's not cheap, he deserved it, but what he did do was stand up when we needed it. And really, this year our forward line hasn't been that potent. I don't think it was that potent against the Cats, actually, but what De Goey did was finish. And throughout this year, he's had flashes of his brilliance. He's had flashes where he's been running through 50, or he's had a chance to snap, and he just hasn't been able to put that through. So it was really good to see him finish really well. It was good to see him with a bit of hunger. I feel like maybe he hasn't been 100% into it this year. I don't mean that in a mean way. I'm not saying he's 10%. Maybe it's 98%, but maybe that extra week off for the highly publicized reason was enough to make him think, hey, I got to make a good go of this. So De Goey was definitely a positive. I think Grundy did what Grundy does. I don't think Geelong had a ruckman that was ever going to trouble him. And I think Stanley would match up quite okay versus Grundy, but I'm sure he's injured. I think last year he got dropped, but as long as Geelong want to play, basically, and not much of a competent ruckman against Collingwood, they're always going to struggle. And obviously with Joel Selwood going down early, that was a huge blow for them. You take away any chance at ruck dominance, you take away your best in and under player, you take away Mitch Duncan as well. So I'm not writing Geelong off for this match at all. The one thing I'll say about Geelong is that I think either Collingwood is insanely elite at stopping teams from creating any movement and flow to their football, or Geelong just decided not to give it a go. It felt very similar to the Hawks. I'm starting to wonder if it's defensive structures at Collingwood, but Geelong didn't take the game on all that much. And when I think about Geelong football, it's all about taking the game on. It's all about the overlapping on the wings. It's about the run. And to see things like College Asney when they were, there's a few minutes left and they were within striking distance and just chipping the ball to the side. It's a really bizarre thing to see. I think Collingwood doesn't score well, but I don't think that's because our ball movement is slow. I think we do control the ball, but I think we do take the game on. I think we don't score well because we're not that great offensively. So if you start to see a bit more offensive dominance from Collingwood in the forward 50, which is really De Goey's the main person that you might see there, I think there's a chance for us to blow some teams away. Kind of like we saw in round 1 a long time ago against the Western Bulldogs. Topic number 2, wet weather. How much talk has there been over the last few weeks about Collingwood in wet weather football? And it's deserved, the talk about the Giants game last year, the talk about how much Essendon just outplayed us a few weeks ago. And there had to be some serious questions about, can Collingwood show up when conditions aren't well? And I think it's justified. But what we saw was a clear focus from not only the players, but the coaching staff in making that change late to get Mason Cox out. But the players took it on extremely well. It was like a challenge had been set to them. It's like the whole world thinks you can't play grubby football where the whole world's saying that Collingwood doesn't like to get their jumpers dirty, that Collingwood's all about outside run. We're about the clean, the pretty football. But have a look at the results. At no point in the match could you say that Geelong were tougher than Collingwood. At no point could you say that Geelong had better contested footy skills than Collingwood. It was a pantsing, basically. I would say that it would have been pretty sad to watch as a Geelong fan. And if you think about the game and 2 direct goals from Collingwood miss marks, there was one to Roughhead in the first quarter, and there was one where Taylor Adams dropped the mark, and then you include the ruck goal, which I have no idea what the hell happened there. Geelong really had no answer to the dominance of Collingwood, and I think that all came down to the way that we approached the wet weather football, the contested ball on the inside, the Taylor Adams getting the ball out, the Adam Treloar just getting the ball straight onto his foot, in positions where you think, how does he even get that? I thought that was fantastic. And to me, when I think back about the games that we've lost, and GWS seems to be able to do this against us, Richmond seem to be able to do this against us, even though I feel we have the best midfield in the league. I feel we have not the best, but the most talented midfield in the league, the deepest midfield in the league. When teams are able to get on top of us with their pressure and their contested ball, we seem to crumble. Essentially, it doesn't matter how well our defense is playing. It doesn't matter how creative or dominant Myercheck or DeGoey or Stevenson can be. If we are getting taken out of the midfield and our contested ball is off, we seem to lose. It's quite funny for a team that's spoken about for foot skills and things like that. But to me, that's what happened. And, thinking about Geelong's midfield, Dangerfield, Selwood, Guthrie, there's a few pretty good players in there. Once again, the Selwood injury, I think, did have a big impact on the game. I'm not saying it's a match-defining impact, but definitely had an impact on how the game played out. So I can't give a big enough tick to the Collingwood midfield about how they took on the contested ball and our defenders as well. And I think you see how tough our team can be. When you have Taylor Adams and Maynard around there just completely going in hard, I think you see that we can be a really tough contested ball team. I think Adu, our new player, I'm not going to try the last name again, showed as well a really good hit. I think it might have been on Menengola, a really great tackle in there as well. So I think he had a really quiet game, but when there's moments in games you think, hey, I like that moment where he really put a good tackle and hit onto Menengola. That was fantastic. So well done. Probably the most contentious is not the right word, but often discussed thing that I see about Collingwood, especially on your different forums and boards, is where should Jordan De Goey play? And I have to say, in the past, I have been a big believer in that. I thought that he was going to develop into an A-grade midfielder, and you can't help but give the comparison to Dusty Martin. They're very similar players in terms of their ability to dominate, their ability to be very strong and effective forward as well. I'm starting to sense that I am floating towards the idea of him being almost a permanent full forward. I think his ability to win one-on-one contests is stronger than his ability to be effective in the midfield for long periods of games. I think we've seen De Goey get the ball in the midfield and it's like a rush of head to himself. He's fantastic for a quick 4 or 5 minutes, but the longer he stays in there, the more it becomes not about making a huge impact at 1 or 2 contests, but it's about, how much you're tracking the other player, how much are you hitting targets with your disposals. And I think there's been a few times this year where De Goey's got the ball, got the clearance, and then immediately turned it over. I feel like he might be, he's definitely an X-factor player, but when the team needs just something a little bit more to chuck him in the midfield. And I think we've got a few different players like that. I actually think Jack Crisp is another one. I think Maynard can jump in there for little bits and pieces of time. I think even the Brown boys, when they're in the team, can have a go at that as well. I know it's easy to say De Goey should be a forward after he's kicked 5 goals. When you look at our forward line, goals are the big issue, and they always will be. And we don't have anyone there that you think, geez, they're capable of kicking, 60, 70. I actually think De Goey is. I think if you got him in the perfect year where he just bought into the role, the team had the ball movement that we had at the moment, I think he could kick 60 to 70 goals, even though he's not like your normal tall. And I think what a funny situation it would be when we got DeGoey as a forward, we've got Moore as a back. You know, who would have thought that when we drafted them not that long ago, that sometimes what you draft is different to what ends up eventuating. I think if we have DeGoey forward, if we have Myercheck playing well, if we have Stevenson playing around that half forward flank, I think our team starts to really eventuate. And I do like how good Hoskin Elliott is starting to hit his form this year as well. It's starting to make me feel a little bit like the 2018 forward line. I don't think there is a spot for Mason Cox in the team. I think his hands have been too poor. I don't think you can have a tall forward that is not marking. It doesn't bother me if he doesn't get marks, but it's the fact that he gets to the position where he should be marking it and he's just dropping it. I think that's too detrimental to your team. I think Darcy Cameron is a better option there because at least you know that if he gets his hands to it, he's going to mark it. It's funny, if we could have Mason Cox with Darcy Cameron's marking ability, well, that would be swell, but unfortunately we don't. Let me set the tone. It's the last quarter. Geelong are within 2 goals. There's 3 minutes or so on the clock. The Cats are coming. Collingwood have been known to give away a lead in a game or two before, and it goes to the centre. Geelong need a clearance. Geelong need a Paddy Dangerfield to break from the centre and just put it straight through the goals, and to give them 90 seconds to get one more to win the match. What a fantastic comeback that would be. The Cats fans are sitting down and they're feeling, maybe, could this be a chance for an unbelievable ending? Could this be just an absolute thief in the night and steal this one? The media says we're premiership favourites. Could we do it? Could we prove them right? The ball gets, I can't remember if it's thrown up or bounced up. The ball goes into the air. Brodie Grundy taps the ball behind, and in comes Jack Crisp, absolutely sprinting through. No one near him. Clears the ball straight into our forward line. And that's the end of the game. Jordan DeGoey goals. Bob's your uncle. Game over. See you later. That was most definitely my highlight of the match. Why don't you chuck a comment below and tell me what your highlight of the match was? I'd be interested to see what people think was their big moment. What a fantastic moment that was. What a great set play. What a great moment for Brodie Grundy, who gets a lot of criticism about the way that he places the ball with his taps. And his ability to go, have a look at this. Let's just run this. Let's just finish this game basically based off one tap. And then you guys can talk about me a little bit more on the media while I'm consistently being the best ruckman in the league. What a great moment that was. I mentioned earlier that I have a theory about Adam Treloar, and I feel like he's elite. I think, well, he's elite in certain ways, but he's below average in other ways, and he's below average in disposal. And I think he's been at Collingwood long enough now, and we've watched him for long enough to go that he is not going to be a good kick of the ball. I'm a little bit concerned that he's not that good of a handball either, but he's fantastic with the contested ball. He's fantastic with his ability to get the footy moving forward. What I saw on Thursday night was the perfect conditions for Adam Treloar. He had no need to get the ball and lace out other players consistently. He just needed to get the ball and lob it over his shoulder, get that territory dominance, get that ball moving forward. And I think, well, he could be a fantastic wet weather footballer. And I think that's my theory about Treloar. We need to get more and more of him being an inside player, less of him being an outside player, because as good as his speed is, he butchers the ball. And he does it every match almost without fail. So the more that we get Treloar, doing kicks over his shoulder, getting the ball, handballing it out to other players, the better we will be. Now, I know he can improve that. And I know Taylor Adams has improved his kicking out of sight, which I think is fantastic. I don't think I've seen such an improvement in an off-season of one person's disposal. But at the moment, if we're going forward and you've got players like Pendlebury, you've got Elliott, you've got Crisp, you've got Maynard, You've got even Brown's not the best kick of the football, but Dacos, what a good kick of the football Dacos is. Do we want those players having the ball in their hands, or do we want Treloar? At the moment, I'd say I want Treloar at the bottom of the pack. I want him connecting up with handballs. I still want to see his burst of pace, but I think he's so much more than that. I think in the past, we would have said that Treloar is a speedy midfielder. That was his thing. He would just run, and he would get through with pace. Less and less do we see him relying on his pace. It's more his ability to win the football. And there's no reason that we can't convert him. He doesn't have the same body shape as Taylor Adams, but there's no reason he can't be our player at the bottom of the pack, getting the ball, scrapping, handballing it out to the people that can kick better to deliver into the forward line. I think it's been something that probably I haven't seen as much in the past, and that might be that I just didn't recognize it, but I feel like he definitely has the ability to be an elite inside midfielder. No one else in the league at the moment, Tom Mitchell in the past, yes, but no one else in the league at the moment can get the ball as much as him. And it's not like when Hawthorn played a few years ago with Tom Mitchell, every time they got the ball, they would chip it to him or handball it to him. It was like it was almost a rule at Hawthorn that if you wanted to go forward, it had to go through Tom Mitchell's hands. Treloar is not getting easy kicks and handballs all the time. He is winning that at the bottom of the packs. He is constantly at the contest. You cannot fault his effort over the past 3 weeks. That's my theory on Adam Treloar. Let me know in the comments below if you agree. Maybe he will be that speedy outside midfielder like thinking Chris Judd early, but he was more of a burst midfielder, wasn't he? All right. What a win for the Collingwood Magpies. Second on the ladder, I believe, at the moment, although teams will have a chance to go past us. What a week in which we've seen these so-called premiership favourites in Geelong completely drop the ball. We've seen premiership contenders in Essendon completely drop the ball. And that's why my last comment is, please do not get stuck into this idea of Collingwood being premiership favourites, because I'm sure there will be a bit of a push in the media, because the media needs something to talk about. Premiership favourites is a crazy idea. You can go through this year, and at some point it's been Collingwood, it's been Richmond, it's been Brisbane, it's been GWS probably, it's been Geelong, it's Essendon being talked about at Port Adelaide, and what's happened afterwards? Each team has pretty much choked. They've brought out a terrible performance. So what that tells me is don't buy into the premiership favourites talk, because it's a load of rubbish. Don't even worry about the premiership, because the team that wins is going to be the one that puts themselves in the best position for September. And I feel like we are putting ourselves in a good position because we have managed to get our game back. And, until we see a team that can break through our defence, we're always going to be a chance. And making those small steps forward with some fantastic forward line play on the Thursday was great. My last comment, I think I said that was my last comment, but this is my last comment. Josh Dacos is a star. Gee, it's been worth the wait to see him play so well. So I'm looking forward to seeing him play for the next 10 years at Collingwood. How good would it be to see what we saw on the weekend, which is Brown to Dacos to goal? Let's see that in a grand final win for Collingwood. That would be the ultimate. Have a great weekend. Go Pies.